beloved, and welcome back. Today's message is Understanding the Statue of Daniel, chapter 2. So, just some background. The book of Daniel is written about 530 years before Jesus was even born, so about 2,500 or so years ago. It's really an amazing book. The book of Daniel and the book of Revelation, they tie in together a lot of the same or very similar prophecies when you're talking about eschatology, study of the end times thing. And so we're going to be making a video today on Daniel chapter 2. The first prophecy is about a statue or an image that King Nebuchadnezzar had built. After this video, we're going to make a video explaining the four beasts of Daniel, the lion, the bear, the leopard, and how they reveal in Daniel the final beast spoken about in Revelation, the kingdom of the Antichrist. This video, though, this about the statue and this prophecy really lays the framework for understanding other prophecies in Daniel and Revelation. And then I have highlighted here, the Bible builds on itself. It really needs to be studied, especially if you want to have any sort of confidence in it, specifically if you're preaching, but even just for knowing and understanding and helping us to understand Scripture. The Bible really builds on itself, especially when you're talking about prophecy. The first coming of Jesus, God built it up in many ways, in many different prophecies. And eschatology, the second coming of Jesus. The Bible just builds and builds on itself. And when you see the Lord saying the same thing over and over again in different ways, you begin to have more and more confidence in it. Just one Bible verse before we get started. Jesus says the most important commandment, Matthew 22, love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your passion, all your desire, all your soul, and with all your mind. And I want to key in on that mind there. The way we love the Lord with our mind is by really dedicating ourselves to study the Bible and learn the Scripture. So this stuff is complex, but it's not rocket science. I'm sure many of the things that you guys do in your daily walks or your job, you have to devote more of your mind to it than you will to have to understand both Daniel and Revelation, right? It's a lot to study, but it's not impossible. I think the world kind of has sold people a lie that you can't have a comfortable understanding of Daniel and Revelation. I'm not saying you're going to know everything or have it perfect, but I disagree. To those of us who are children of God, I think all of the Bible was given that we might read it, understand it, and cause us to edify us, make us grow, and love the Lord and worship the Lord. And we don't want to fall into apathy. We want to love the Lord with our mind and pursue it. And so with that, we're going to get right in. Starting in Daniel chapter 2, verse 28, Daniel is talking to King Nebuchadnezzar. Nebuchadnezzar has a dream. He calls for people who can tell him the dream. Nobody can, obviously. And then Daniel prays to God, and God reveals to him what is going on in this dream. And in the dream is this great statue we're going to talk about. But this is an important Bible verse right before. Daniel says to the king, there is a God in heaven who reveals secrets, and he has made known to King Nebuchadnezzar what will be in the latter days. So this prophecy is really going to sweep throughout world history and tell us what's coming in the latter days. He says, your dream and the visions of your head upon your bed were these. And a couple verses down, we get right into it. Daniel is now speaking to King Nebuchadnezzar. This is the king of Babylon. Daniel's been taken captive to Babylon. And he says, you, O king, were watching, and behold, a great image. This great image, whose splendor was excellent, huge statue, stood before you. And its form was awesome. So it's huge. It's amazing. This image's head was of fine gold, its chest and arms of silver, its belly and thighs of bronze, its legs of iron, its feet partly of iron and partly of clay. So you have it separated into 5 sections, this statue of a man, and it's got a head, chest, arms, thighs, legs, feet, toes, but 5 sections, all right? It then goes on to say, you watched while a stone was cut out without hands, which struck the image on its feet of iron and clay and broke them in pieces. And then it goes on to say, then the iron, the clay, the bronze, the silver, and the gold were crushed together and became like chaff from the summer threshing floors. They just were completely crushed and the statue just obliterated. The wind carried them away so that no trace of them was found. And the stone that struck the image became a great mountain and filled the whole earth. Now, Daniel's going to explain this prophecy a little more in the verses to come, but I want to explain to you already, just give you a little precursor. Each successive layer of that statue, the gold is a kingdom, the silver is a kingdom, the bronze is a kingdom, the iron's a kingdom, and finally the iron and clay are a kingdom. That is the completed statue by itself of a man. It's all man-made kingdoms, going from the first kingdom is Babylon, where Daniel is alive right now. King Nebuchadnezzar is literally the head of gold, right? And he's going to say that in a second. But it's going to sweep throughout world history all the way to where we are today. And that stone that strikes this image and destroys it, that is Jesus Christ, right? He is the stone that the builders rejected. He has become the chief cornerstone. And this prophecy is going to lay the foundation for both Daniel 7, 8, 9, and all of Revelation to explain that Jesus Christ, although he did come and die for us as a suffering servant, he's coming back as a conquering king. He's going to destroy all the kingdoms when he comes back. And his kingdom, his millennial 1,000-year reign kingdom, is going to fill the whole earth. Okay, Jesus is going to rule and reign from Jerusalem. And so I want to give you some background, but now I want you to see it in Scripture. So then it goes on to say, this is the dream. Now we will tell you the interpretation of it before the king. And then Daniel says very clearly to King Nebuchadnezzar, you, O king, are a king of kings, for the God of heaven has given you a kingdom. God is sovereign over it all. Even though King Nebuchadnezzar was kind of a wicked king, but it doesn't matter. God is sovereign over all of that. Any king who has power. He's given you a kingdom, power, strength, and glory, okay? And wherever the children of men dwell, or the beasts of the field and the birds of the heaven, he has given them into your hand, and has made you ruler over them all. You are this head of gold. So he says it very clearly. On the statue, you're the head of gold. You're the king. Babylon is the kingdom of gold. But after you shall arise another kingdom, inferior to yours. This silver kingdom is the Medo-Persian Empire. History reveals this to us, okay? Medo-Persian Empire. Then another, a third kingdom after that of bronze. That's Greece. They were the bronze kingdom, right? Their swords, their armor, things like that. But Greece was then the third kingdom. That is the belly and thighs of bronze, which shall rule over all the earth. So these are kingdoms ruling the earth, okay? So you have Babylon, Medo-Persia, and then Greece, all right? And the fourth kingdom, this is really important, the fourth kingdom shall be as strong as iron. So the fourth kingdom is iron, and we know that this is Rome. Rome was the Iron Kingdom. They ruled the world. They even had iron legions, right? Iron was like their main thing. They had the iron legions of Rome, okay? So the fourth kingdom is as strong as iron. Inasmuch as iron breaks in pieces and shatters everything, and like iron that crushes, that kingdom will break in pieces and crush all others. So that's really important to understand. That kingdom, Rome, in 476 AD, it did break in pieces. Rome essentially became what Europe is today. Rome's, split. You had Constantinople. Rome broke in pieces. It was that fourth kingdom of iron, but it did break in pieces, okay? Now, the fifth kingdom, the final world kingdom, does not exist yet. But let me explain. Daniel starts to reveal it a little bit. And then he says, whereas you saw the feet and toes, partly of clay and partly of iron. This is huge to understand the final world kingdom coming. It's partly of iron, the system of Rome. It's probably going to be a revived Roman Empire. It seems overwhelmingly throughout many parts of the Bible, it's probably going to be centered around Rome or Europe. But the feet and the toes are the final world kingdom. Partly of potter's clay and partly of iron. The kingdom shall be divided, yet the strength of the iron shall be in it. This is why many Bible prophecy experts believe The European Union is divided, but the strength of Rome will be in it at the time of the end, the revived Roman Empire, right? It says, just as you saw the iron mixed with ceramic clay, and as the toes of the feet were partly of iron and partly of clay, so the kingdom shall be partly strong and partly fragile. So this final world kingdom is partly strong. There's the iron mixed in it, Rome mixed in it, but it's also partly fragile, right? Maybe it's in the end, those 10 toes, we're going to find out they're the 10 horns of the beast coming in Daniel 7. And in Revelation, it lines up. They are the 10 rulers that give their authority to the Antichrist. And so those toes, those feet, those 10 rulers and the Antichrist among them, they're going to rule the world. But that kingdom's going to be partly strong and partly fragile, which makes sense if you had the whole world combined. It's not all going to be strong. It says, as you saw the iron mixed with ceramic clay, they will mingle with the seed of men, but they will not adhere to one another, just as iron does not mix with clay. So this final coming world kingdom, it's like no other kingdom. It's bigger, it's brutal, it's massive, but it's not going to fully agree with one another. It's not going to fully mix together, right? Which makes sense. It then goes on to say, in the days of these kings, remember the 10 toes, those line up with the 10 horns and the 10 rulers in Revelation. The number 10 is very important. These kings, in the days of the final kings, okay, the 10 kings that give their authority to the Antichrist, the God of heaven will set up a kingdom. That's Jesus. Jesus is the God of heaven. In those days, the God of heaven will set up a kingdom which shall never be destroyed, an eternal kingdom. And the kingdom shall not be left to other people. It will break in pieces and consume all these kingdoms. The kingdom of Jesus coming, it's going to just, consume every nation on planet Earth. And it shall stand forever. Inasmuch as you saw that the stone was cut out of the mountains without hands, that's really important, and that it broke in pieces the iron, the bronze, the clay, the silver, and the gold, all the kingdoms. The great God has made known to the king what will come to pass after this. The dream is certain and its interpretation is sure. So scripture records this is going to happen. So just some background really quick and then we'll spring forward. The head of gold is the Babylonian Empire. The chest and arms of silver was Medo-Persia. The stomach and thighs of bronze was the Greek Empire. The legs of iron were Rome, okay? But the feet are partly of iron, Rome, and partly of clay. Most people agree this is the coming revived Roman Empire, also known as Europe, right? Most of Europe, right now, if Rome or, Europe became a major military power, it would probably be united and you would have a revived, Holy Roman Empire. And finally, the stone cut out without hands. We know that Jesus Christ is that stone. He's the stone that the builders rejected. He is the chief cornerstone. Remember, he's not part of the image. The image is a man, right? He's literally a rock. Think of a meteor. And he comes and he strikes and destroys the image. The obvious allegory there is when Jesus sets up a kingdom, he's coming back in judgment. He's destroying all man-made kingdoms, man-made kings. And he's going to set up his millennial reign of Jesus, the Messiah. And after that, take us on to the new heavens and new earth. And so just some really clear, important points. There are clearly 5 total world kingdoms ruled by man. 5. The first 4 have already fallen. Babylon, Medo-Persia, Greece, and Rome. The final one, the 5th world kingdom, is to be destroyed by Jesus at his second coming. If you haven't watched my Day of the Lord video, please watch it. It tells you all the events surrounding that day. But this, and I have it highlighted, this is why Bible prophecy nuts, like me, are obsessed with globalism. Globalism is a fascinating thing to me, both on a governmental side, with the United Nations, and with religions kind of linking up. That's fascinating to me. And here's why. Because I know there doesn't have to be 15, 20, 87, 54 million world kingdoms. right? God has laid out the plan, and where we're at in history, we're simply waiting for the last one before Christ. And this isn't the only place in the Bible that talks about this coming kingdom. The reason I have so much confidence is I've read Daniel 7. I've gone through Isaiah and Zechariah, and then obviously Revelation. You get more and more confident, as you study the word. But we're just waiting for the last one. So if tomorrow a huge kingdom took over the world, that would be bad, but I would also be a little bit excited, right? Because it's, one final world kingdom is coming, and I know that Jesus destroys that one. It doesn't get destroyed by another empire. And so one other important point, this is also a strong clue that anyone that is seriously passionate about globalism, about the world coming together in one, has probably not read nor believes the Bible. Why would you start the fifth kingdom? It doesn't make any sense. If you read the Bible, you understand the Bible, you don't want all the worlds linking up. Not that it's necessarily bad. There's nothing necessarily wrong with it. I mean, it's probably be better healthcare, better, trade, all sorts of things would be good. But the Bible clearly says that when they all join forces, when they say peace, peace, we've achieved this world peace, then comes sudden destruction, and they will not escape, okay? And so I just want to wrap up talking about globalism a little bit. This is why people get excited. When the Bible talks about Rome and Europe quite a bit. In fact, it's really amazing. There's only 2 geographical locations on planet Earth that if you read the Bible and you take it literally, you don't freak out about them, but you're just like, I need to keep an eye on these 2 locations. One is Jerusalem and Israel, and the other is Rome. There's just too much written about Rome. You can read it in Daniel 2, Daniel 7, Daniel 9 talks about it. Rome is the Gentile nation that killed Jesus. Revelation talks about a city on 7 hills that also talks about Rome, is speaking about Rome. It's always been known the city on 7 hills. And so there's just so much about Rome in the Bible, and Jerusalem, obviously, that I always tell Christians, hey, if you like reading the news, just pay attention to those 2 locations. It's pretty fascinating. And so in Rome, you have the European Union. They have a common, currency. They have the United Nations. They are the global driving force behind globalism from a government and political side. And yet also in Rome, on the religious side, you have the Vatican. You have Pope Francis, or any pope. They literally claim to be the spokesperson for Christ, okay? And yet, when you see things from a religious side, like the Pope Francis signing a document in 2019 with Grand Imam al-Talib, you've got one has 2 billion Muslims, one's got 1.5 billion Catholics. That's like half the world population right there or more, claiming they have a common God, and this is all in Rome. And, out of the Vatican or out of Europe, this is stuff that absolutely fascinates me. Now, you don't want to sensationalize it. We don't know when the end is, but the Bible is pretty clear. And I hope that you'll really tune in and watch my Daniel 7 tape, probably next week, talking about the 4 beasts of Daniel. They clearly talk about Rome and then a coming revived Rome. And then finally, my Mystery Babylon tape about the city on 7 hills. That also seems to be talking about Rome a little bit. And if all these big globalism and religious syncing up together events weren't happening in Rome, I probably wouldn't be as confident as I am right now. But just looking at what's happening in the world, if you pay attention to it and your eyes are open, the Bible seems to point towards Rome and Jerusalem. And if you follow them and take the Bible literally, it's absolutely fascinating. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you have a greater understanding of the statue of Daniel. May God bless you and keep you. Have a great day.